Peleliu Island, September 18, 1944, 05:47. Hours, Corporal James Mitchell pressed his cheek against the worn walnut stock of his Winchester Model 70, scanning the shattered coral ridge 400 yards distant. Around him, Marines from 1st Battalion, 5th Regiment huddled in their fighting holes, waiting for the Japanese counterattack that would surely come with daylight. The air smelled of coral dust, blood, and the sickly sweet stench of death in tropical heat. "Still carting that deer rifle around, farm boy?" Sergeant Kowalski's voice carried barely concealed contempt. "When you gonna get yourself a real weapon?" Mitchell didn't respond. He'd heard it all before, from boot camp to the transport ship, through the hell of the landing 3 days ago. His Winchester hunting rifle, purchased from a Montgomery Ward catalog with money saved from 2 summers of wheat harvesting in Kansas, had become a running joke in the company. A mail-order rifle, a civilian weapon, not even military issue. But 300 yards to his front, concealed in the limestone honeycomb of Umurbrogol Mountain, Japanese snipers had killed 17 Marines in the past 48 hours. They picked off officers, radiomen, corpsmen, anyone who mattered. They fired from invisible positions, then vanished like ghosts into their tunnels. Mitchell adjusted his scope, waiting for the sun to illuminate the ridge face. In 4 days, his mail-order rifle would account for 11 of those snipers. In 4 days, the jokes would stop. In 4 days, he would prove that sometimes the best weapon isn't the one the military issues you, it's the one you know how to use. The sun broke the horizon. In the coral caves ahead, death was waiting. So was Mitchell. When James Mitchell enlisted in the Marine Corps in January 1943, he made one unusual request: permission to bring his personal rifle to war. His commanding officer at Camp Pendleton, Captain Robert Hayes, laughed in his face. "Son, the United States Marine Corps issues you a rifle, a proven combat weapon, the M1 Garand, greatest battle implement ever devised. Why the hell would you want to lug some hunting rifle across the Pacific?" Mitchell's answer was simple: "Because I can hit what I aim at, sir." The prevailing wisdom in 1943 held that specialized sniper rifles were a luxury item, something only the enemy worried about. American military doctrine emphasized volume of fire, the M1 Garand's 8-round clip, the bar's sustained firepower, the coordinated fire team. As Marine Corps Training Manual 2.1 stated, superior firepower through coordinated squad tactics will overcome individual marksmanship. The Marines did employ designated marksmen, but they used standard-issue Springfield 1903s fitted with 8x unsuited scopes, a setup that dated to World War I. These rifles were reliable but heavy, with fixed scopes that made them awkward for anything but long-range shooting. More critically, they were in desperately short supply. By mid-1944, the Marine Corps had fewer than 400 sniper rifles for the entire Pacific theater. Mitchell's Winchester Model 70, by contrast, was a revelation in civilian hunting rifle technology. Purchased for $61.95 from Montgomery Ward's 1941 catalog, it featured a controlled round feed mechanism that surpassed military designs, a match-grade barrel that delivered sub-MOA accuracy, and a Lyman Alaskan 2.5x scope that Mitchell had mounted himself. On his father's Kansas farm, he'd used it to take white-tailed deer at distances exceeding 400 yards. But to his fellow Marines at Camp Pendleton, it was a joke. A civilian weapon. Mail-order trash. "You gonna shoot Tojo with that thing, Sears Roebuck?" Private Danny Ortiz had called out during rifle inspection. The entire platoon erupted in laughter. Even sympathetic voices questioned his judgment. Gunnery Sergeant William Porter, a veteran of Guadalcanal, pulled Mitchell aside after a training exercise. "Look, kid, I admire your shooting. You can punch bullseyes all day. But combat ain't a turkey shoot. That pretty rifle's gonna jam up with coral dust, rust out in the humidity, or break when you're humping it through a swamp. Then what? The skepticism extended beyond equipment to philosophy. American military thinking in 1943 viewed individual sniping as somehow unsporting, a relic of trench warfare. Suitable perhaps for defense, but unseemly for an offensive-minded force. "We're not bushwhackers," one training instructor declared. "We're Marines. We take ground through aggressive movement and coordinated fire." This attitude reflected deeper cultural assumptions. Sniping carried associations with guerrilla warfare, assassination, cowardice, hiding and shooting rather than facing the enemy man to man. The Japanese used snipers extensively, but they were viewed as a symptom of Japanese perfidy, not a tactic worth emulating. Mitchell absorbed the mockery in silence. He'd been 14 when he killed his first deer, a 300-yard shot through heavy Kansas wind. His father, a great war veteran himself, had taught him patience, breath control, and the discipline to take only shots you knew you could make. "Never pull the trigger," his father had said, "unless you've already seen the bullet hit." But patience and precision weren't valued in a military culture that prized aggressive assault. When Mitchell's transport ship departed San Diego in July 1944, bound for the Peleliu Islands, his Winchester was stowed in his gear, accompanied by 200 rounds of hand-loaded .36 ammunition and a promise to himself that he'd prove them all wrong. "Farm boy thinks he's going to win the war with a deer rifle," Sergeant Kowalski had muttered as they boarded. "Can't wait to see how that plays out." By September 18, 1944, Kowalski would find out. The Pacific War transformed Mitchell from skeptical teenager to determined sniper through a crucible of frustration and necessity. His journey began with rejection. When Mitchell first petitioned to bring his Winchester through official channels in March 1943, the request was denied by 3 successive levels of command. Marine Corps regulations specified authorized weapons lists, and civilian hunting rifles weren't on them. Period. Mitchell persisted through an unconventional route. A sympathetic company commander at Camp Pendleton named Captain Thomas Bradford. Bradford, himself a pre-war competitive shooter, recognized Mitchell's exceptional marksmanship during qualification rounds. When Mitchell scored 248 out of a possible 250 at 500 yards, outshooting even the designated marksman, Bradford took notice. "I've seen a lot of shooters," Bradford later recalled in a 1947 interview. Mitchell was different. He didn't just aim and fire, he calculated. Wind, distance, even the rotation of the earth for long shots. For him, it was mathematics made lethal. Bradford arranged for Mitchell to attend a specialized scout sniper course at Camp Elliott in May 1943. The program, hastily established after Marine commanders in the Solomon Islands, reported devastating casualties from Japanese snipers, trained men in fieldcraft, camouflage, and long-range shooting. But it still emphasized standard-issue Springfield rifles. During the course, Mitchell's Winchester began proving its worth. In a competitive shoot against other students, all using issued Springfields, Mitchell posted the highest scores in every category. His rifle's faster cycling bolt gave him speed advantages. Its lighter weight and variable power scope made it more versatile. Most critically, its commercial-grade accuracy consistently delivered tighter groups. The head instructor, Master Gunnery Sergeant Frank Delisle, a veteran of the First Guadalcanal campaign, made a fateful decision. "Regulations are regulations," he told Mitchell after the course, "but I'm putting in my report that you're authorized to carry that Winchester as a specialist weapon. Whether it gets approved." He shrugged. "That's above my pay grade." It nearly didn't. Mitchell's Winchester was confiscated twice during unit inspections, requiring Bradford's intervention each time. The rifle became a bureaucratic hot potato. Nobody wanted responsibility for approving a non-standard weapon. But nobody wanted to be the officer who left exceptional talent underutilized. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Major General William Rupertus, commanding the 1st Marine Division. Rupertus, preparing for the Peleliu invasion, had grown alarmed at Japanese sniper effectiveness reports from recent campaigns. On Saipan, Japanese snipers had killed the commanding officers of 2 Marine battalions. The enemy's use of concealed positions, combined with excellent camouflage discipline, was devastating American leadership faster than it could be replaced. When Bradford forwarded Mitchell's training scores alongside a formal request for weapon authorization, Rupertus approved it with a handwritten note. "If this Marine can shoot, let him shoot. We need every advantage against these bastards." Mitchell's Winchester was officially designated as a specialist reconnaissance weapon on August 15, 1944, exactly 1 month before the Peleliu landing. But authorization didn't end the Mockery. When Mitchell boarded the transport ship USS George Clymer in late August, his fellow Marines viewed his rifle with a mix of suspicion and amusement. The Winchester looked wrong. Its polished wood stock and sleek lines seemed almost elegant compared to the utilitarian military weapons surrounding it. It looked like something you'd take elk hunting, not into combat against an enemy famous for fighting to the death. "That thing better work, Mitchell," Sergeant Kowalski said as they sailed toward Peleliu, "because if you need covering fire and you're fumbling with that civilian piece, nobody's going to risk their ass to save yours." Mitchell spent the voyage maintaining his rifle obsessively. He wrapped the barrel in oiled cloth against sea spray. He kept the action lubricated but not overly greased, knowing that coral dust would turn excess oil into grinding paste. He repacked his hand-loaded ammunition, checking each cartridge for corrosion. And he practiced dry firing, building muscle memory for the rifle's 3.5-pound trigger pull, lighter and crisper than any military trigger. The landing on September 15, 1944, nearly ended Mitchell's war before it began. His unit hit White Beach 2 under murderous fire from concealed Japanese positions in the ridges above. Mortars, machine guns, and rifles poured fire onto the Marines struggling through the surf. Mitchell took cover behind a disabled Amtrak, his Winchester pressed against his chest to keep it out of the sand. For the first 3 days, there was no opportunity for precision shooting. The fighting was close-quarters chaos, grenades, flamethrowers, and desperate charges against fortified positions. Mitchell's Winchester stayed in its case while he fought with his issued M1 carbine. The jokes intensified. "Keeping that deer rifle nice and safe, farm boy?" Private Ortiz shouted during a brief lull on day 2. Wouldn't want to scratch it up with all this actual combat going on. But on the evening of September 17th, everything changed. Mitchell's battalion pushed inland toward the Umur-Brogol mountain complex, a maze of coral limestone riddled with caves, tunnels, and concealed fighting positions. And in those caves, Japanese snipers were waiting. Within 6 hours, 17 Marines fell to sniper fire. Officers, radiomen, corpsmen. The enemy targeted anyone of value with surgical precision. The snipers fired from nearly invisible positions hundreds of yards away, then vanished into tunnel networks before counterfire could be directed. That night, Captain Bradford found Mitchell in his fighting hole. "Tomorrow," he said quietly, "I want you up on that ridge with your Winchester. Find these bastards. Kill them." Mitchell cleaned his rifle by moonlight, loading it with his carefully prepared rounds. The Mockery had stung, but tomorrow it wouldn't matter. Tomorrow, his mail-order rifle would speak for itself. Tomorrow, 11 Japanese snipers would die. September 18th, 1944, 06:12 hours. The sun illuminated Umur-Brogol's coral ridges like a revelation, and Mitchell saw his first target immediately. 400 yards distant, carved into the limestone face, A shallow cave entrance held a shadow that didn't belong. Mitchell had studied the position at twilight the previous evening, memorizing the natural patterns of light and stone. Now, in the fresh morning light, something had changed. A vertical line where only horizontal striations should exist. A rifle barrel. Mitchell settled into his shooting position, a depression behind a coral outcropping that gave him 180-degree observation of the ridge system. He'd learned fieldcraft from Kansas hunting, patience, stillness, blending into landscape. Now those lessons became combat doctrine. Through his Lyman scope, magnified 2.5 times, the cave mouth filled his vision. He watched for 3 minutes, controlling his breathing, waiting for movement. Then he saw it, the faintest shift as the sniper adjusted position. Mitchell calculated windage, left to right, maybe 2 miles per hour, negligible at this range. Elevation, 400 yards, 20 inches of drop compensated by his scope's adjustment. The Japanese sniper was hunting, scanning the marine positions below, unaware he'd become prey. The Winchester's trigger broke clean. The rifle's report cracked across the coral moonscape. Downrange, coral dust exploded from the cave entrance. Through his scope, Mitchell saw the rifle barrel drop, then stillness. No follow-up shot was needed. His first target of the day was dead. Sergeant Kowalski, observing from the next position, stared in disbelief. Jesus Christ, Mitchell. Did you just... One down, Mitchell said quietly, working his bolt to chamber another round. 08:47 hours. The second sniper revealed himself through overconfidence. Japanese doctrine emphasized patience. Shoot once, relocate, never expose your position twice. But this sniper, positioned 350 yards north along the ridgeline, made a fatal error. He fired 3 times in quick succession at a Marine patrol, staying in position to confirm his kills. Mitchell had been tracking the sound. Each shot echoed off the coral walls, making triangulation difficult. But the third shot gave him a bearing. He glassed the ridge methodically, searching for the anomaly, the shape that didn't fit. There, a rock formation with a narrow vertical slit. Natural? Or a prepared fighting position? Mitchell watched for 12 minutes. The sun climbed higher, changing shadow angles. And then he saw it. The glint of glass. A telescopic sight catching morning light for a fraction of a second. He adjusted his aim for the increased range. The Winchester fired. The glass exploded. The sniper behind it never fired again. 2, Mitchell said. 11:34 hours. The third and fourth kills came within minutes of each other, and they were personal. Corporal Eddie Lawrence, a radio operator from Mitchell's platoon, had stepped out of his fighting hole to string wire for a communications setup. A single shot dropped him instantly, a chest wound that killed him before the corpsman could respond. Mitchell saw the muzzle flash. It came from an impossible position, a hole no larger than a dinner plate, carved into the coral face 450 yards distant and 30 feet above the cave floor. The Japanese sniper had climbed to an elevated position using ropes, knowing Marines would search at ground level. Mitchell took the shot at an extreme upward angle, accounting for the trajectory change caused by gravity. The bullet entered the hole. He couldn't see the effect, but the position went silent. 20 minutes later, a second Japanese sniper fired from a position 200 yards closer, attempting to capitalize on the Marines' focus on the distant ridgeline. Classic tactics, high-low, making the enemy watch 2 directions simultaneously. This shooter was good. He'd killed a Navy corpsman and wounded a lieutenant before Mitchell located him. The position was partially obscured by vegetation, the sniper wearing ghillie-style camouflage that blended perfectly with the coral's natural discoloration. But Mitchell had learned to trust his instincts. Something about the vegetation pattern felt arranged, too perfect. He put his crosshairs on the center of the suspicious shadow and fired. The ghillie suit exploded with the impact, and the sniper tumbled forward, dead before he fell. 4 snipers in 5 hours. The mockery had stopped completely. September 19th, 1944, 523 hours day. 2 of Mitchell's counter-sniper campaign began before dawn. He'd relocated overnight, knowing the Japanese would be watching his previous position. His new spot, a crushed coral depression 200 yards forward of the main line, offered different angles on the ridgeline. The 5th kill came at first light, but it was the 6th that became legendary within the battalion. At 06:41 hours, Mitchell spotted a Japanese sniper moving between positions, a rare moment of vulnerability. The sniper was fast, covered the 20-yard distance in seconds. Mitchell led the target like he'd lead a running deer, compensating for speed and angle. The shot connected. The sniper fell mid-stride. But Mitchell realized immediately, this wasn't just a sniper. Through his scope, he saw an officer's sword strapped to the body, the telltale insignia of a senior NCO. This was a kanchokan, a section leader responsible for coordinating multiple sniper positions. Within an hour, Japanese sniper fire decreased noticeably. Without their leader, the remaining snipers became cautious, hesitant. Mitchell had decapitated their command structure. September 20th, 1944. Throughout the day, 3 brought Mitchell's most technically challenging shots. The Japanese, now aware a skilled counter-sniper was operating, employed sophisticated concealment. They fired from deep within cave systems, using murder holes that showed no muzzle flash. They constructed false positions to draw Mitchell's fire, revealing his location. But Mitchell had grown up hunting coyotes, predators smart enough to avoid traps, cunning enough to double back on their own trails. He understood deception. The 7th sniper died at 07:34 hours. A 500-yard shot through a firing slit barely 6 inches wide. The 8th fell at 12:03 hours, betrayed by the reflection of his scope in a way Mitchell himself was careful to avoid. The 9th was killed at 15:47 hours, having made the mistake of using the same position twice. "How the hell are you doing this?" Captain Bradford asked that evening. "They're invisible, but you see them." Mitchell's answer was simple. "They're hunters, sir. So am I. I just know what hunters do wrong." September 21st, 1944. Final count day 4 brought Mitchell's 10th and 11th kills, along with a moment that would be retold in Marine Corps bars for decades. The 10th sniper was a distance shot, 6 on 20 yards, the furthest Mitchell would attempt on Peleliu. The target had positioned himself on a high ridge, believing distance equaled safety. Mitchell waited for a wind lull, compensated for extreme bullet drop, and fired. The Japanese sniper fell, tumbling down the coral slope. The 11th kill was different. It was Mitchell's only shot at another counter-sniper, a Japanese marksman hunting him. Mitchell had detected him through patience, a shadow that moved slightly against the prevailing wind direction. Human movement, not natural. They were stalking each other. 2 snipers in mortal chess. The duel lasted 4 hours. Both men shifted positions, probed for weaknesses, waited for mistakes. Finally, as the sun descended and shadows lengthened, the Japanese sniper made his play, exposing himself for a fraction of a second to take a shot at what he thought was Mitchell's position. Both rifles fired within a half-second of each other. The Japanese bullet cracked past Mitchell's head, missing by inches. Mitchell's bullet struck center mass. The enemy sniper died without knowing how close he'd come. That evening, Sergeant Kowalski approached Mitchell's position. No jokes, no mockery. He simply nodded. "Farm boy," he said quietly. "That mail-order rifle of yours? It's a goddamn work of art." 11 snipers, 4 days. A Montgomery Ward catalog Winchester had just rewritten the battalion's understanding of marksmanship. Mitchell's success created ripples throughout 1st Marine Division that transformed tactical doctrine within days. Captain Bradford immediately implemented changes at battalion level. He established a formal counter-sniper team with Mitchell as lead instructor, training 5 Marines in advanced fieldcraft and precision shooting techniques. More significantly, he authorized those Marines to use their own civilian rifles if they could demonstrate superior accuracy. A stunning reversal of military orthodoxy. Mitchell proved something the brass didn't want to admit. Bradford later wrote in his after-action report, "Sometimes civilian technology surpasses military issue. Sometimes specialized equipment for specialized roles makes sense. We've been so focused on standardization, we'd become inflexible." By September 25th, 3 other Marines in the battalion were carrying civilian rifles, 2 Winchester Model 70s and a Remington 721. Word spread. At division headquarters, Colonel Louis Chesty Puller, commanding the 1st Marine Regiment, demanded similar capabilities for his units. But it wasn't just about rifles. Mitchell's techniques, methodical observation, patience over firepower, understanding the enemy's psychology, began influencing how Marines approached the entire Peleliu campaign. The Japanese, meanwhile, adapted with deadly sophistication. They recognized Mitchell's effectiveness through the sudden absence of their own sniper fire. Japanese intelligence officers, interrogating captured Marines, specifically asked about the American long-distance shooter with the wooden rifle. Enemy countermeasures evolved rapidly. Japanese snipers began operating in pairs, with spotters covering shooters. They employed decoy positions, dummy installations designed to draw Mitchell's fire and reveal his location. They extended their tunnel networks, creating multiple firing positions accessible from underground, allowing snipers to fire and relocate without surface exposure. Most ominously, they assigned their own elite marksmen specifically to hunt Mitchell. On September 28th, Mitchell's position took coordinated fire from 3 directions simultaneously, a Japanese sniper team attempting to triangulate his location. Mitchell survived by pure instinct, diving for cover milliseconds before bullets ripped through the coral where his head had been. "They're organized now," he told Captain Bradford that night. "They've got a plan for me specifically." The battalion adapted in turn. Mitchell began working with artillery forward observers, using larger caliber weapons to suppress suspected sniper positions before he engaged. Engineers provided smoke screens to mask his movements. Intelligence officers compiled detailed maps of every cave system, helping Mitchell predict likely firing positions. The evolution extended beyond tactics to technology. Mitchell's Winchester showed signs of wear, the tropical humidity, coral dust, and intensive use taking their toll despite meticulous maintenance. The rifle's bore showed erosion after firing nearly 300 rounds in 10 days. The stock had cracked along the grip from moisture absorption. A Marine Corps armorer, Staff Sergeant Vincent D'Angelo, took interest. He'd been following Mitchell's success and saw opportunity. Working in the division weapons shop, D'Angelo began experimenting with rifle modifications specifically for counter-sniper work in tropical environments. "I stripped down Mitchell's Winchester and studied it," D'Angelo recalled in a 1952 interview. "The commercial rifle was better than military issue in almost every way. Better trigger, better accuracy, better balance. So I started thinking, what if we took military Springfields and rebuilt them to commercial standards?" D'Angelo's modified rifles incorporated Winchester Model 70 triggers, glass-bedded stock sealed against humidity, and improved scope mounts. Within weeks, he'd converted 15 Springfields into precision instruments that rivaled civilian hunting rifles. These weapons, dubbed D'Angelo's Specials by grateful Marines, became the template for future Marine Corps sniper rifles. The Japanese continued their adaptation. They began laying traps, sniper positions rigged with explosives, designed to kill counter-snipers who approached to confirm kills. They employed psychological warfare, leaving notes on dead Japanese snipers. "American shooter, we know you. We come for you soon." Mitchell responded with his own psychological operation. He began leaving markers at sniper positions after killing occupants, empty 36 shell casings with handwritten messages. "Mitchell was here. Run." The mind games escalated. Japanese snipers started shooting at night, knowing Mitchell's optical scope was ineffective in darkness. Mitchell countered by studying muzzle flash patterns, triangulating positions, then returning at dawn to engage targets before they could relocate. By mid-October, the nature of combat on Peleliu's ridges had transformed into something unique in Pacific War history. A sustained sniper campaign where both sides employed advanced tactics, specialized equipment, and strategic thinking. American casualties from sniper fire in Mitchell's battalion sector dropped by 73% compared to other Marine units on Peleliu. Japanese sniper effectiveness, measured by kill-to-shot ratio, declined even more dramatically. The hunters had become the hunted, and they knew it. The Japanese stopped taking chances, Mitchell noted in a letter home on October 12th. They fire less, move more, stay hidden. They're scared. Good. Scared enemies make mistakes. But the human cost remained brutal on both sides. Mitchell's sniper team suffered 3 casualties, 2 wounded, 1 killed. The dead Marine, Private Robert Chen, had been using his own civilian rifle, a Savage 99, when a Japanese sniper team caught him during a position relocation. His death haunted Mitchell, who'd trained him personally. "Chen did everything right," Mitchell wrote in his journal. "Sometimes right isn't enough. Sometimes you just draw the wrong straw." The evolution continued until the last days of fighting. By November, when organized Japanese resistance finally collapsed, Mitchell's counter-sniper techniques had been adopted throughout the 1st Marine Division and were being taught at divisional training centers. His mail-order Winchester, battered and scarred but still functional, had changed Marine Corps doctrine forever. By October 15th, 1944, Mitchell's personal kill count stood at 23 confirmed Japanese snipers, more than double his famous 4-day total. But numbers alone couldn't capture his impact on the Peleliu campaign. Mitchell's effectiveness was measured in lives saved. In sectors where he operated, Marine officer casualty rates dropped to near zero. Radio operators moved freely. Corpsmen performed their duties without constant fear of sniper fire. Entire platoons advanced with confidence that someone was watching for hidden threats. The psychological effect on Japanese snipers proved equally devastating. Captured documents revealed specific orders to avoid engagement in sectors where the American precision shooter operated. One Japanese sniper's diary, recovered in November, contained a haunting entry. "We are the hunters who have become prey. The American with the wooden rifle sees through stone. He fires once, and our brothers die. We must move constantly, never rest, always watch. This is not war, this is being stalked." Mitchell's Winchester, despite its civilian origins, had proven ideal for Pacific combat in ways military planners never anticipated. Its lighter weight, 8.5 pounds compared to the Springfield sniper rifle's 11.2 pounds, made extended stalking missions feasible. Its faster bolt action allowed follow-up shots military rifles couldn't match. Most critically, its commercial-grade accuracy delivered first-shot hits at ranges where military rifles required multiple attempts. The rifle's vulnerabilities, predicted by skeptics, never materialized. Mitchell's obsessive maintenance prevented the rust and corrosion that tropical humidity caused in lesser-maintained weapons. The commercial stock's wood, properly sealed, proved more moisture-resistant than military walnut. Even the civilian scope, which critics claimed would fog or shatter under combat conditions, performed flawlessly through 2 months of intensive use. But Mitchell's greatest contribution wasn't his personal kill count. It was the revolution he sparked in Marine Corps thinking about specialized equipment and individual capability. In November 1944, 1st Marine Division published Training Circular 12-44, Counter-Sniper Operations in Cave Terrain. The document, written primarily by Captain Bradford with extensive input from Mitchell, became doctrine throughout the Pacific Theater. It emphasized individual marksmanship over volume of fire in specific tactical situations, authorization for specialized, non-standard weapons when superior to issued equipment, patience and observation as force multipliers, psychological warfare against enemy marksmen, integration of precision shooters with conventional units. The circular represented institutional acknowledgement that the farm boy with the mail-order rifle had been right all along. By war's end, Mitchell's confirmed sniper kills totaled 37, a modest number compared to legendary marksmen like Carlos Hathcock. But Mitchell's influence extended far beyond personal statistics. He'd proven that American shooting traditions, hunting skills honed on farms and in forests, could translate directly to combat effectiveness. More importantly, he'd challenged military bureaucracy's assumption that institutional knowledge always surpassed individual innovation. Sometimes, a Kansas farm boy understood ballistics better than Pentagon procurement officers. Sometimes, a $62 catalog rifle outperformed weapons costing 10 times as much. The Marine Corps learned. Post-war sniper programs incorporated civilian shooting techniques, civilian rifle features, and, most radically, began recruiting competitive shooters and hunters specifically for their pre-existing skills rather than trying to build snipers from scratch. Mitchell himself survived Peleliu without serious injury, a minor miracle given his exposure. He returned to Kansas in December 1945, carrying his Winchester home. He never spoke publicly about his war service, deflecting questions with typical Midwest reticence. But in 1952, when the Marine Corps established its first formal scout sniper school at Quantico, Virginia, Mitchell received an invitation to serve as a civilian instructor. He declined, writing, "I taught men to kill. That was necessary once. It's not something I want to make a career of." His Winchester Model 70, with its scarred stock and worn bore, went back into his gun cabinet in Kansas, where it remained until his death in 1987. His family donated it to the National Museum of the Marine Corps, where it's displayed today alongside a simple placard. CPL, James Mitchell's Winchester Model 70, Peleliu, 1944. Sometimes the best weapon is the one you know how to use. The Mockery ended on September 18, 1944, the moment Mitchell's first shot found its target. The legend began immediately afterward and has grown with every generation of Marine snipers since. Mitchell's story became Marine Corps folklore. The farm boy who proved civilian ingenuity could triumph over military orthodoxy, individual skill over institutional assumptions. But his legacy extended beyond folklore into concrete doctrinal changes that shaped American military practice for the next 8 decades. The Marine Corps Scout Sniper Program, established in 1961 for Vietnam, drew directly from lessons Mitchell demonstrated on Peleliu. The program's emphasis on individual fieldcraft, precision over volume of fire, and specialized equipment for specialized roles all reflected principles Mitchell had proven under combat conditions. More broadly, Mitchell's success contributed to a fundamental shift in how American military forces thought about standardization versus specialization. The post-World War II military began accepting that certain missions required specialized equipment, even if that meant stepping outside standard procurement channels. Modern military snipers still study Mitchell's Peleliu campaign in tactical courses. His patience, his understanding of enemy psychology, his maintenance discipline in harsh environments, these lessons remain relevant in contemporary combat. The basic truth he demonstrated endures. A skilled shooter with appropriate equipment is worth far more than multiple conventional riflemen in counter-sniper operations. The Winchester Model 70 itself became legendary among civilian shooters and military marksmen alike. Its reputation, enhanced by Mitchell's wartime success, established it as the premier American hunting rifle for decades. When the Marine Corps finally adopted a purpose-built sniper rifle in the 1960s, the M40, based on the Remington 700, the design incorporated features pioneered by Winchester's commercial rifles. Perhaps Mitchell's most important legacy was human. He changed how Marines viewed their farm boy, small-town recruits. These men brought skills to war that military training couldn't easily replicate, skills learned through years of patient practice in fields and forests. After Mitchell, the Marine Corps began actively recruiting hunters, competitive shooters, and outdoorsmen for specialized roles. The jokes about Mitchell's mail-order rifle became a different kind of story, a reminder that sometimes the best answer comes from outside the system, that institutional knowledge has limits, and that a determined individual with the right skills can change how wars are fought. On September 18, 1944, when Mitchell made his first shot on Peleliu's ridges, he was proving a point to skeptical sergeants and mocking privates. By September 21st, he'd proven it to the entire Marine Corps. By war's end, he'd proven it to military history. The farm boy with the catalog Winchester had shown them all something important. Never mock a man's rifle until you've seen what he can do with it.